Hello YouTube, got another great game for you today. Protoss versus Terran. So let's get started. The Terran player, Kappa King, spawns in the bottom left, and he opens up with a wall at his choke. This wall is good because it can prevent the ATA from transferring in to scout. And also, if you are facing ATA drop in the mid game, which is a very common and effective strategy for Protoss against Terran, this can at least prevent the shades from transferring to your second natural. The Protoss player opens up with gas 4 and then goes ahead and builds a Nexus, or will any moment now. So fairly fast expansion, not Nexus first, but pretty quick. And you can see that though he built an assimilator, he didn't actually start mining from it until after the Nexus had been built. And the reason for that is simply to accelerate your Nexus, to focus on mineral income and save up for that 400 and get that base just a little bit sooner. StarCraft is very much about building up small advantages throughout the course of the game, especially at the Master and Grandmaster level, where players are so skilled and so capable that you'll seldom simply be able to win the game with one move. But what you can do is accumulate some small advantages and translate those into an eventual victory. So the Terran player also expanding, getting his second gas, and throwing down a factory. We can see the Protoss scouting the Terran base. He's not going to be able to gain too much info because of the wall. You will see the barracks with reactor core and the marine pump, but otherwise he's in the dark at this stage in the game. No advanced tech yet for the TOS player. He does have a Psi core, and he is a little bit supply blocked here. Something you want to watch out for. You never want to be supply blocked. It's not good. So make sure you build lots of pylons and avoid that. Sentry production underway, as well as Twilight Council. Potentially we could see some Dark Templar play, or you could simply be getting something like Blink for the Stalkers, or even the upgrade for the ATA that enables it to attack with 40% greater speed. Starport going down for the Terran player, and the early timing on this starport probably means a pretty early drop. We'll probably see initial medevac production right away, and then a drop shortly to follow. A good Widowmine placement here by Kappa King to protect against an Oracle or even some drop harass. It is important to guard your natural. It's very common, especially at the higher levels, for players to attack your eco, especially when you're vulnerable, say when you move out or when they're distracting you with a push. So you do want to guard that, and the Widowmine's very effective towards those purposes. You can also put some Marines there. And a double Widowmine payload loaded up in the medevac, and it looks like he's going to go along this route and hit the relatively undefended Protoss main. Mine drops can be extremely frustrating to deal with, as they do slow down your eco, although with the Observer already being produced by the Protoss player, probably this drop won't do a ton of damage, especially because the medevac was only loaded up with 2 Widowmines. So he could have thrown a few Marines in there, but he opted to leave his forces for defense, which is a reasonable approach as well. In comes the medevac, and still no units in the Protoss main. I don't imagine this is going to do a ton of damage. The Stalkers here defending the natural, but probes are going to get out of the way, and the photon overcharge does manage to completely destroy that drop. So no real damage done, but MCanning's mining was delayed a little bit. And you can see the Terran does have a slight supply advantage going into the mid-game. However, the Protoss player has gotten his third before the Terran. So pretty even game still. Neither side with a slight advantage. As they're both macro up, you can see the production facilities coming online here for the Protoss player. And it is a good idea to build production facilities in advance of your additional eco so that you don't end up with that mineral or Vestian glut that can be so devastating if you're not careful. And it appears that the Terran player is going for a bioball composition, Marine Marauder, with a couple Widow Mines. And it's a pretty strong composition, very effective. The Medevac Marine Marauder can do a lot of damage, and it's also very high maneuverability. So if you do get outmatched, the Medevacs can lift up the infantry and sort of boost them to safety. Looks like Kappa King has a little more drop play in mind here. And he is approaching Protoss forces. He does see the Protoss infantry there attacking the rock, trying to gain access to the Protoss 4th base right here, which is kept an eye on by a Widow Mine. And MCanning's now added Disruptor to his mix. Disruptor is very powerful against the Bioball because it does massive splash damage, and the infantry units are a lot of small units, so they're the perfect target for stuff like Psystorm or Disruptor or any sort of splash damage. Good observer placement and good counterintelligence there by Kappa King, taking out the observer. It is important to keep an eye on your opponent's troop movements so that you know when to expect the push, or whether or not your forces should be in guarding against drops. MCanning moving out a little bit with his forces. And Kappa King just not necessarily dropping just yet, but just keeping his guys here where they can drop. So kind of a nice idea, actually, instead of just attacking your opponent straight up, waiting and having this threat there for when your opponent moves out, as MCanning is presently. So MCanning's push into the Terran 3rd could potentially do a lot of damage. Meanwhile, the counter at the Protoss 3rd, so they're really in a base race situation here. And Purification Nova was successfully dodged, and the Terran is even bringing his SVGs out to attack as they get trapped. Meanwhile, the counter is going pretty successfully with the Nexus here being destroyed. So both players with a successful offense, but neither able to defend against the attack. And it's going to be interesting to see how this progresses. If the Protoss has to pull his forces back, or what's going to happen here. And MCanning now confronting the attacking Terran forces. Meanwhile, a big drop at the Protoss Natural. So a really, really successful attack here by the Terran. I actually thought that he was in sort of bad shape, but really appears to be getting the best of this exchange. The Protoss eco is in shambles, and nothing really happening for the Protoss offense right now. So he did manage to clear out that force that was destroying his base. But now the toss is on one base, and there's really no way for him to attack against this extremely nice defense here that Kappa King has set up. And you can see that there's such a significant eco edge here for the Terran player, not eco, well, eco edge, but also a supply count advantage, 32 supply. So, Purification Nova is playing a few Marauders there. And Kenning, careful to stay out of the radius of Kappa King's Liberators. A very timely force field there. And this is some sort of nice disruptor drop, actually. Potentially bringing M. Canning back into this game. Even supply count. A really nice no-holds-barred battle here between the two players. Severe damage being done on both sides. And it's great to see such an aggressive attacking game. Neither player, this is not your typical sit back and try to max sort of game. I'm kidding. Forces are trapped here, and he is going to try to run away, but that is not going to be successful. And Kappa King with a commanding lead, having routed that trapped attacking force. And it looks like he's not going to waste any time, and he's going to move out and try to take out that Protoss third. M. Kenning's eco back online here with his natural as well as his second natural being taken. And like ships passing in the night, the Protoss forces run by the elite Marine single file force here. And he's going to have a little trouble maybe breaching that ramp again. A common theme throughout this game. The Terran third will go down, but so will the Protoss second nat. DPs doing marshals to handle the attacking force. And Kappa King really needs that scan. Apparently he sent his main to take the third. What's that? So the DC actually doing a little bit of damage here. And the Disruptor is going to want to try to do some as well. But the DC gets taken out. And Kappa King with just free reign on the Terran base. The Adept Disruptor army trying to defend his base. And it looks like he is going to be successful here. Although the Liberators are causing a real bottleneck. And the Protoss second nat goes down. Still a very even game. Protoss able to evict the attacking Terran forces. But the Terran has substantially better eco. With his third, the Protoss main completely lined out, so he's just on his natural. The Terran second nat pretty close to mined out, but if you look at the harvester count, a substantial advantage, especially significant because both players are in a nascent eco situation. So there's about 150% Terran SCVs to Protoss probes, and maybe not an extra base, but certainly this base, the Terran has much more life than the Protoss only base here with and there is some mineral income here as well as gas income from the NAT. It's a pretty strong advantage for the Terran, and it looks like the Protoss might be considering some sort of desperate all-in push. In comes the Protoss drop, double DT, might do a little bit of damage. Really nice turret placement by the Terran. Both DTs are going to get out. The shuttle's going to survive. So These DC might cause a bit of a problem, but they are picked off fairly quickly by infantry forces. So not a huge deal. Terran's still up. 40 supply. And the Terran forces are moving out. Meanwhile, a disruptor drop probably going to hit this juicy 35 worker second nat. And the Terran, sensing something, does relocate his forces to a nice defensive position. And the drop is on. The Purification Novas are cast. One disruptor picked off. One's going to survive. And not a bad attack. Did get some kills there. You can see the harvester count has now been equalized because of those DTs and that disruptor drop. The Protoss player does now have his third base, so could potentially take the lead with income. Although the Terran's still significantly ahead in mineral income right now, but that's about to change as the years wear off. Liberators in defender mode, setting up a series of self-defending circles here, and Purification Nova misses. The Liberator pushes on. Another Purification Nova doing no damage. Potentially a window of opportunity here for Kappa King to move in. He's got his Marines spread apart. Does not want to risk losing a bunch of them to one very well-timed Purification Nova. The Pylon is going to go down, and a Purification Nova again missing. The Mothership Core taken out. Things are looking very, very dire for the Protoss player. Although the supply camp has equalized somewhat, and a Purification Nova tears apart the middle of the Terran forces. But it looks like this attack may be successful. Another Purification Nova, particularly. Oh, but the disruptor gets killed at the last second, canceling the Nova and saving the Terran Bio Ball. Very, very bad shape for the Protoss player indeed, with infantry about to take out his last real base. Protoss doing everything he can to set a micro defense here, but the Liberator's support is just too much for the Protoss player to deal with. It's too limiting, and the game is over.